evening, everyone. The Chemical Engineering Student Society is back yet again, as promised, with another of its very interactive and exciting sessions where we try to get as many questions of yours answered as possible about anything got to do with chemical engineering. Now, today in particular, we are hosting Chem Darshan, which happens to be the official interactive session of chess. And for that very special occasion, we are very honored to have with us here today Miss Riddhi Banik. She's been a student of the NIT DGP Chemical Engineering Department and has passed out from alma mater in 2018. And she's currently pursuing her PhD from the Rensselear Polytechnic Institute on Chemical and Biological Engineering. So, without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Ms. Riddhi Banik. Thank you for joining us today, Hirdi, and for making time out of your busy schedule for us.
Sure. Thank you all for joining in. So, um, as for me, when I was an undergrad chemical engineer at NIT Durgapur, I had these thoughts in mind, but they weren't very concrete. So, I uh, uh, like some of my batchmates who had very concrete thoughts on what they wanted in life. Like
Right.
after graduation, I didn't have it very
Yes,
sorted out. So
right. Even for us, like we are not really sure about what we want to pursue or move forward with. Like even like we are currently many of my batchmates are in here. I'm pretty sure like I can speak on their behalf. Like we are in the sixth semester and yet we don't know like what we want to do or where we want to go. So it's kind of a bit nerve-wracking, like when we think about it, like what we exactly want to pursue at times.
sixth semester. Okay, yeah, this is a good time to start thinking about the internships.
Right.
Yeah. So in my case, what happened was I think I went for a summer internship after my second year, and that was an industrial internship. Wasn't much. Worked at I worked. I wouldn't even say what I worked. I observed these industrial processes at um, Everest Industries Limited, which happens to be an asbestos making company,
Right.
and um, one of the most uh, uh, carcinogenic uh, kind of industry you can think of. Uh, anyway, so that was my summer internship after second year. But after third year, I wanted to do something more of a research kind of an internship. So actually, currently there are new professors that have joined at NIT
Hmm.
Durgapur who weren't there, and from what I hear, they are incredibly helpful as well. Um,
Surely, yeah.
yeah, professors in NIT Durgapur, as per my experience, have been as well as my further education. Um, Letters of recommendation and whatever. So when I was preparing for an internship, I went up to Dr. Haldar, Professor Gopinath Haldar,
Right,
and
yeah.
also Professor Tamal Mandal. He was also extremely helpful. So
Yes.
I think I applied for this IAS thing, uh, Indian uh, at Indian Association for Science in Bangalore, and it had this combined application thing for internships, which could land you anywhere in the country, depending on the kind of application and the proposal that you write. So I ended up in ICT Mumbai with Professor uh, GD Yadav there, who at that point of time was the um, vice chancellor of ICT, and currently he has retired from that position. At that point of time, he was the vice chancellor, and I got to work on a lot of green catalysis, which
It's
is his specialization. That
right.
was uh, gave me some exposure to many of these processes, like handling HPLCs and working with uh, reactors, columns, and stuff. Uh, that was my first real exposure to a lot of what research feels like. So that is something I wanted to do, but I still wasn't sure. And I think I applied to several other places. Um, and there have been students in from our department who have gotten into these MyTax or uh, other prestigious fellowships abroad. So mm, they would be better equipped to. Uh, I think one of you had asked about CGPAs in the questionnaire that I had received. Um,
Right, if you don't mind, could we like just like we're going to ask the questions one by one. Like it would be a bit easier for your viewers. Like if you could have mentioned the question first and then you could have answered in accordance
yeah,
to
sure, sure,
that.
sure. Yeah,
Right.
sure, sure. Yeah.
So I have a couple from my side. You are doing currently pursuing a PhD, right? So like could you just brief us down about like what exactly it is all about, and especially like chemical and biological. So how are these two very distinct different fields coming together? Like
Sure. Um, Let me start by sharing something. Um, this is something I had shared before, I think, in one of the alumni meets, but this is kind of uh, my interpretation of an. Is my slide visible?
yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. My interpretation of the overview of the steps that uh, one needs to undertake for um, application of a PhD. But uh, what you specifically asked, chemical and biological engineering, these two very diverse disciplines. Um,
Right.
it sounds diverse at this point, really for sure. But then there are mm, works that are currently happening in this uh, sphere of biopharmaceuticals or in other spheres as well, where biology and chemical engineering must come together. Yeah, so chemical engineers role is on scale up. What we do, what uh, where our most important function is on scale up. So all of these um, biological stuff that uh, biologists come up with for pharmaceuticals to reach a wide range of audience, wide range of patients across the world. We would need vast supply and also in affordable amounts, and it's also essential to ensure that many of these products are accessible to countries which do not have great infrastructure to um, keep them at very high demanding conditions, like conditions of temperature mostly, uh, or sterile conditions. All of these
Right.
things are
Yeah.
really important. And to so there is an ongoing collaboration between biology and chemical engineering to make these things happen, to make products that do not need that much of a low temperature storage, that could help with the uh, transportation across longer distances. And uh, also, when you think about small molecules and these kind of products, uh, you would think of reactors that are at microchannels and those kind of stuff. You are also uh, involved not only in scale up but in scale down of things.
Right.
So
Yeah. In
this is
accordance
where,
to the demand, whatever like is needed currently in that point in time.
right,
Yeah.
this is where chemical engineers have a great role to play.
So our job, like we come in when it comes to stuff like scaling up or down or like maintaining the conditions when we are producing something from the like taking something up from the laboratory scale and producing in an industrial scale. So that's where we come in, the chemical engineers.
Sure. And not just that, it's like sometimes biologists, when they are working on these things, they have certain perspectives onto how
Right.
uh, some of these things would work. But when chemical engineers come in, they would bring in a fresh uh, view on, like, they would have, and they wouldn't have done transport phenomena, biologists. So the best thing we do as chemical engineers is model the transports. So that would uh, that gives us an opportunity to model things. And when it comes to modeling, that's when you can uh, involve predictive analytics into it. You can get AI into it.
Right.
For
Yeah.
example, many of the drug companies currently are working towards introducing AI to hasten the process of drug manufacturing, various stages of drug manufacturing. So this is where exactly how uh, you are uh, for in drug delivery, for example, you are ingesting or you are inhaling certain therapeutics some way, and it's important to know its transport inside your body. It's important to know its modes of action, mechanism of action. It's important to know uh, whether it's mm, uh, how the molecules are moving in certain circumstances, whether it's diffusion, uh, by diffusion or by convection, or it's whether it's kinetically controlled, or it's thermodynamically controlled. All of these questions is what, as we chemical engineers, we uh, ask, and this gives us better insight into all of these processes, which
Right.
biologists wouldn't think of.
Right. So like subjects since like being a sixth semester student, subjects like transport phenomena or AI have just been introduced to us. So I believe like those would definitely be more applicable in the future for us and we should be like
Yeah,
concentrating on those
transport is
parts.
like the heart and blood of chemical
Right.
engineering. So
Right.
uh,
Right.
that is where uh, you have to learn transport if you are a chemical engineer. And also uh, you would study reaction engineering in different you would apply concepts of reaction engineering as well in transport. You would apply concepts of heat transfer and mass transfer in transport. Transport kind of
Yeah,
uh,
it basically covers
culminates
up all
everything.
the stuff. Yes. Yeah. Right. Alrighty. And so I would be honest, I did stalk your LinkedIn profile for a bit, and
Okay.
I yeah, something caught my eye. Like there's this thing that was mentioned there. You did like participate or attend the annual meet, like AICHE annual meet in 2022. So could you brief us down about that? Like what was that all about? What happened there?
Okay, so I would assume some of you would be members of the Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, so and would be familiar with American Institute of Chemical Engineers, which is one of the most prestigious, and it's the like an annual convention of chemical engineers, where it's the mm, thing where all chemical engineers look forward to showcase and show off their work and uh, interact and meet. And this time it was special because for the last 2 years it's been going on virtually. Everything has been going on virtually. So this time it was fully in person. So and I got to present a part of my work there this time. So that was very special for me. So the things to look forward to in these conferences is more than even whether or not you are presenting something. It's important to uh, interact and make these connections, because there are people from
Right.
industries, there are people from um, uh, people in your field, uh, big names in your field, and you get a chance to interact with them. You it's more important, it's more valuable to have your posters there, because uh, when you are presenting a poster, that's where a lot of audience would come up. So I didn't have a poster, though I was talking, so it depends on the people's interests.
Right.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, what exactly do you mean by a poster? Like,
a poster is like um, a one page, a one
so it's
A2
basically
page,
like an advertisement or something of yours. Like,
a one
is
A2
it?
page review of your
That's right.
research.
Right. Right.
Uh, it introduces, an you could have some of the most important figures that you think most illustrates your results. You would have some of your preliminary conclusions, and you would introduce the problem there. You wouldn't go into great depth, and depending on how many
Right.
questions people ask, so that way there are keynote lectures by uh, great people. There are award lectures. Certain people in this field would get lifetime achievement awards or some specific awards. Young Innovator Award, all of these award lectures, those are really uh, those are the things we would look forward to in those, because uh, in in this field, in academia, in research, more it's really a lot important to listen to other people's work, uh, in addition to uh, focusing on your own work, because that is what kind of listening to other people is what kind of broadens your horizon
Right.
and
Yeah.
inspires you. So
Right.
attending seminars and all of these talks is like really what leads you to think about new things.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that at least for now, that's all the question that I had from my side. Now I'd like to hand over the narrative to my juniors, Yash and Ananya, and they'll be taking it up from here. Thank you once again, Dee, for like giving us your time and joining us here today.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, Deep.
Hi.
Can I proceed with the questions?
Sure.
So, Deep, can you tell us something about Rensselaer Polytechnic College and about your PhD there?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I want to share my screen. So when I came to RPI, the first thing that excited me, RPI, specifically RPI Chemical Engineering, um, I would assume everybody in chemical engineering undergrad at NIT Durgapur would be uh, reading Smith, Van Ness, and Abbott as thermodynamics textbook, and so these people, I could actually see their offices, Van Ness and Abbott. They have been previous professors at RPI, and there are seminars in their names. So first, RPI is a small private university in Troy, which is in the outskirts of New York City. Uh, it's like 2.5 hours drive from New York City, and the chemical engineering is I department. I think it's in the top 30 right now. Um, mm, yes, I do not exactly remember the ranking, but it's in the top 30. And so here, there is a very structured way of selecting your advisors other than mm, mailing them separately. That's what generally happens with other departments. You could mail your prospective advisors before you come in here, but in this case, for all first year students, the department is called the Howard P. Eiserman Department of Chemical Engineering. So basically, Howard P. Eiserman happened to be one of the inventors of sunscreen, which uh, uh, which landed him on a patent for that, and that landed him on a lot of money. And he decided to donate it to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, as a result of which, for all first year PhD students are funded by this Howard P. Eiserman Fellowship. Uh, if you are at RPI, a first year PhD student, you are a Howard P. Eiserman Fellow. That is one thing. And mm, after you come in here, there is a very structured way of finding your advisor. People, all the different professors in the department who have projects, who would have funded projects and whatever work that they are currently doing, they would be presenting that. Like, there is a series of presentations that you will be attending by different professors, and based on those professors presentations, you would have some of your own interests, and based on that you would be talking to further talking to prospective advisors about your interests, because they are giving you this presentation of their works. So that gives you a very good overview of what you might be expecting. So uh, you get to talk to, like, you have to, in this case you have to talk to at least 4 people. And uh, then you kind of fill out a preference form, where you fill out the names of the prospective advisors that you want in the order of your preference, like 2 or 3. And you can have one advisor or 2 advisors. So I have 2 advisors. I'm co-advised. So your co-advisor could be one from the department or from some other department as well. And because there is a lot of interdisciplinary work that goes on in this institute, so I could talk about one particularly very important aspect, which is the first step of a PhD study, is um, the qualifier examination. um, I don't know if you are aware of it, but hmm, that is something that happens in all of these universities uh, in the first year or 6 months. So it's important that you find out a bit about the kind of qualified examination that happens in different universities. For RPI, it's like it's an okay kind of an examination. Uh, but there are certain institutes which are really great institutes, universities, high ranked universities, but they would sometimes give out more acceptances than they can afford to pay for. So in that case, they would make the qualified examination a really, really hard hurdle to cross. So um, that is something to look out for when you are applying. And so this is basically the procedure of choosing advisors. And uh, there is a so here is it here there's a possibility that even if you are not assigned an advisor in the first round, you can there is a second round of choices where you are given with choices of advisors from even other departments. So there has been people who have worked who have gone to the physics department or some material science department from chemical engineering, or you could have somebody who is co-advising you from those departments or something else. So there are like a number of possibilities that uh, could happen. And considering this is a place which is not highly expensive, the kind of stipend that you receive is like uh, more than enough to uh, live and work comfortably. That's all I'm gonna say. um, and the research, there is like a polymer focused, polymer physics focused part of it. There is somebody who works a lot on process control. There are professors who are world experts in membrane technologies and precipitation, and it's a lot of biology bio heavy department. So there is a professor who works in silk fibrin coatings uh, for uh, uh, which is like a mimicry of nature. So she is into these high tensile strength materials which would mimic natural silk. And there are other professors who work in uh, very core thermodynamics and mm, electrochemistry, and and there are a lot of other collaborations that happened with biophysics or biomedical engineering uh, at RPI. So there is a lot of diverse uh, fields that you can take up in this department. Do you have other specific questions?
Yes, since you work on mRNA purification for vaccine manufacture, can you tell us something about mRNA?
Oh, sure. Did I stop sharing? Um, so, of course, at this point, because of COVID-19, we have like um, very different focus on research than what was there a few years ago. Uh, uh, Everybody is suddenly interested in bio heavy stuff. So, I would just give a very brief introduction of how mRNA vaccines work, but I do suppose everybody knows it by now. Um, so, basically, all our traditional vaccines, which are um, for um, certain diseases by viruses, it would be some inactivated virus or some dead virus or a virus like particle that is injected into your body to mimic the actual virus to teach your immune system. um, and that is the basic concept of immunology. uh, mRNA vaccines would wouldn't make the actual virus get into your body. mRNA is in this particular case of COVID-19, which has a spike protein um, on its COVID-19 virus, which has a spike protein on its surface, the mRNA would be uh, e- encoding for that particular spike protein. So here, the mRNA vaccine, which is uh, encapsulated by a lipid nanoparticle, it is basically transfection is the procedure of introducing the vaccine onto a living cell, where it is translated onto this spike protein that resembles the spike protein of the actual virus. And your B cell would recognize it and create these neutralizing antibodies, such that when the actual virus strikes, your host cell recognizes it and it's well equipped. This is basically the mechanism. So, we are so much focused on mRNA vaccines right now. In fact, the world is, because it has been proven to be very effective, and uh, there has been a lot of work done to ensure that the mRNA that is inserted is itself not generating an immune response. For example, by an immune response, I mean that your body is not rejecting it straight away as a foreign particle. And there's one woman who had worked on it, like who made the major breakthrough in this sphere, Caitlin Carrico, who worked in BioNTech, the company that Pfizer bought out to get this vaccine. So there are a lot of applications of this particular mRNA as therapeutics, and uh, not just so. This is something I took out from Moderna's website as the product that are in pipeline for Moderna. There are so many cancer vaccines. There are this immuno-oncology therapeutics. Uh, Very recently, they have gotten into this uh, clinical trial stage for uh, one of the cancer vaccines. So basically, everybody is like really into this mRNA as therapeutics because it's a very nice way of introducing not the uh, it's a nice way of making your body create its own defense mechanisms instead of actually injecting some defense mechanism from somewhere else. And it's not just injected mRNA that people are working on right now. There is a lot of works in the pipeline for um inhaled form of these therapeutics. So people are also working on inhaled uh, vaccines that could, at this point, not just vaccines, different therapeutics, gene editing, uh, gene therapy medicines that could come up for like targeted uh, genetic disorders. Uh, all of these fields are newly emerging fields that the medications for these fields hadn't been explored so uh, so much in with so much in depth that has been possible with the mRNA technology right now. So uh, basically, mRNA as it is uh, the workhorse currently of this because it's the messenger is that transfers information from the DNA to the proteins, and uh, it's the simplest form of in this figure. It's the simplest way uh, of uh, illustrating what it looks like, but it has more complex secondary and tertiary structures. So here it's this one illustrates the in vitro transcription of the mRNA, which is like how the mRNA is made synthetically. It's made from a circular DNA template, which is linearized, and then there is this catalyst, which is called the T7 RNA polymerase, which then kind of from this linearized DNA template, it reads and forms this mRNA, which is the messenger RNA that would. Uh, and one more important aspect of us chemical engineers being interested in mRNA vaccines is that um, making the mRNA vaccine with this in vitro transcription could be a straightforward process, but downstream processing, when I say downstream processing, people, uh, I think you should be familiar with what downstream processing is, but for the sake of clarity, I would just introduce downstream processing starts from the point where once you have made uh, after you have made a product in a bioreactor and the reaction is over, the next set of steps that goes through for the purification of that product is what comes under downstream processing. So uh, that is where the major difficulty lies for because there is a lack of well established and cost effective processes for this purification, which makes this is some I wanted to show you. uh, there has been research going on this inhaled mRNA therapeutics, and it's like nebulized, and uh, it has been tested and people are working on it. I think it's also there in Moderna's product pipelines currently. So if you have any other specific questions.
Yes, the my next question is like, What is the procedure one needs to follow for applying to foreign universities for direct PhD after BTech, like what you did?
Um, yeah. Okay. So procedure would vary from person to person. The first thing is to talk to people and first decide why you want to do a PhD and uh, like why is it even important. And this is an overview of the steps that I followed. I'm not saying this is the best thing to do, but yeah, decide what is the field you want to work on, uh, where you want to focus, and research your field, find the best places, the best people working on your field. Uh, there and start with your initial shortlist, at least like different groups and universities based on talking to seniors and people who are already there. Then check your eligibility, like you would have them on the department websites and the institute websites. uh, if there is a requirement, then complete the standardized tests and then gain like this detail into like deadlines. This is the point where you start sending mails to professors and at the same time work on your statements of purpose, letters of recommendation, the total application, then submission, then acceptance. That's it. So the first thing is why PhD. I spent some time thinking about it because I wasn't very sure of doing it from the first go. I think my during my work experience, I got into it totally that I'm like I have to, um, I want to do this, and it's important you have your own answer to why you want, and it's important to think about what value will this degree add, and if you could commit 5+ years to just one problem, and there's a lot of pressure. Um, I think everybody. Like in this field would understand that nobody else understands what they do. Uh, that is
What kind of pressures do you deal with?
so like even some person working at a job has their own pressure. In this case, the pressure depends on there is like good stress and bad stress thing. So good stress is always important. Some of the pressure is important to drive you into uh, your work. You need to constantly think about it, but then you uh, might also worry about your batchmates who are not taking this path. Somebody would be going for MBA, somebody would be just casually job hopping and landing in really high paying jobs. And uh, you might start thinking about what am I doing here? why? Why? So uh, these are the questions that do not bother me at this point because uh, because I thought of these things before I came here. That is one thing I'm asking you to do. Um, um, for me, it's like the why I wanted to do a PhD. For me, it's like it's the only lifetime opportunity to work on a problem of your interest in such great depth that you always feel it's the best utilization of your time. I wanted to be somebody who is like uh, mm, uh, the uh, an expert in whatever I am doing, and that could be a very limited field, very tiny field, even if whatever it is. Uh, and and when you are in a foreign university, you experience this diversity of people and cultures around you. That it's something also I was looking forward to. That makes you grow as a person, is what I believe. And so yeah, start with choosing a field. This will probably define what you do for the rest of your life. So it can be very different from what research you have done as an undergrad. As an undergrad, uh, during my final year project, I was working on green corrosion inhibitors. I think I worked in corrosion even on my first job, but now I'm working in something entirely different. So it's not about what you've already done, that it could be something different. And so read books. You can take challenging courses if you are interested, browse publications, get some research experience if possible, and maybe check for commercial relevance, or if only the science attracts you, that is also fine. And according to my method, I wouldn't say this is the best method. I think a good method at this point is to just to talk to seniors in different institutes. But what I did was I just googled like top 50 institutions and browsed the department. I would select one from top 10, one from top 20, one from top 30, and like that, random, entirely random was my method. Not a very good method, but okay. And but I browsed the department website and faculty list, all the industry sponsors. It's important to know that the department lists the universities, match the research fields. To me, the country and the climate was important as well, because um, it's where I'm staying currently, there are harsh winters, but I didn't want to be at some place where it's like 9 months winter. And standardized test requirements, some of these universities wouldn't require you at all to take these GRE and TOEFL. TOEFL is probably a TOEFL or the other test is important anyway. Also, the application fees, I didn't want to apply in places which had more than $100 of application fees, that but then there are ways to get these application fees waived, uh, because you could either talk to a professor who could waive your application fees. You could attend one seminar by that institute that gets your application fee waived. At AICHE, for example, all of these different big universities had been giving out this application fee waivers to. So if you get to attend some conference where these universities are looking for prospective grad students, you can get uh, application fee waivers. So, and it's important to set a timeline for all of this. So I would suggest take the TOEFL or IELTS by July and start mailing prospective advisors. At August, take the GRE and communicate with your recommenders. Um, I would think NIT Durgapur professors would be really, really helpful. Uh, and in September, that's when the most of the US university deadlines begin. And that's when you can complete working on SOPs and the CVs. October to January, you can. That's when the deadlines will come. So some of the MIT would have deadline in like 1st December or something like that. So submit according to the deadlines, and February to April you await responses or make other applications, apply for visa, whatever. So these are this was my way of finding. Yeah, somebody wanted to say something.
Uh, these so could you give us some tips for the preparation of GRE or TOEFL?
Yeah, so this slide has all of this what I have done. um, I haven't done all of these things, but my first tip is do not spend too long to prepare, because mm, you can start with vocab preparation long before you are actually preparing. The vocabulary is important for GRE. For the TOEFL, I took like 7 days to prepare. Depending on because depending on how confident are you with the English language and speaking and whatever. uh, there's a speaking app for TOEFL which helps with the speaking part. Most people have problems with speaking in like a very short duration. You have to speak on a topic. It's difficult, and depending on your background, if you are not comfortable, maybe you would spend some time before developing your vocabulary, either from this apps like flashcards. There are Barron's 1100. These are different apps. You can get books as well, but I think apps are good. Also, I watched a lot of American sitcoms and focused on subtitles. That's how, because I have observed that a lot of the GRE words are actually used very in casual conversations in these American sitcoms. If you focus on the subtitles, you'll get to know. If you just watch like a regular watcher, uh, uh, you wouldn't get to know where they are actually using some words which are not so familiar. And then these are different mock tests you could appear for. There is a Chinese website called gre.kmf.com, which has all of these things for free. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that in public, but I could give you the link. But this is basically what all I did, the books. And I think Facebook study groups helped me a lot. There is also there are YouTube channels, but do not spend too long to prepare for GRE and TOEFL, because there are many universities which do not even require GRE these days. So yeah, it's not a big part of the application. It's important for you to score well in the math part of GRE, and it's important for you to score above the required in TOEFL, like whatever is required by the university you're applying to. That's it. Yeah, this is something I did.
So, Didi, can you please tell us something about your experience at SWES, Water Technologies and Solutions?
Okay, yeah, that I was working there for like 1.5, no, 2.5 years in total. So mm, uh, they had this program for graduate engineer trainees, um, which was a 1.5 year program where they would recruit graduate engineer trainees, and each one would go through three different job postings for 6 months each, over a course of 1.5 year, and that would be in different departments within the company. That could give them an overview of like what mm, they actually want to do. So that's how mm, my first one was in technology, which is R&D, and I got to work at a plant which makes these membranes for uh, their water treatment pipeline. And the third one was in procurement in Delhi. So I think currently Suez Water Technologies and Solutions has been bought over by Veolia, which is another French company. When I joined, it was GE Water and Process Technologies, which was bought over by Suez. So these things keep happening, but uh, I think the GET program was helpful in uh, for me, because I uh, got an overview of all the very different expectations of very different departments, and I got some research experience as well in this whole process. And yeah, I, I thought that was a very supportive work environment. in terms of like I had to prepare for I wanted to prepare for all of these exams, and that too happened simultaneously while attending the job.
So, Didi, what is your opinion in publication of the research papers for an internship?
I didn't have publication as an undergrad, but there are um, when I think more than the publication, as an undergrad, it's important that you learn some relevant skills. And if, if you are working, if you get the chance with some professor in the department to work on their projects, it's important that you uh, actually uh, contribute something to the project rather than just focusing on getting your name into as a as an author in a publication. It's important finally to but it's important to learn the relevant skills that could get you that internship, if whatever kind of skills that internship is looking for is uh, my opinion on this matter. Because publication could be something that you haven't really worked on, just gotten into the lab, and somehow your name is among 10 other authors in one paper. That doesn't help. A publication is important if you are the first author or second author, and that way people know that you are the one who has worked on that project.
Dee, I have another question. Um, if someone has a CGPA of below 8.5, for example, like 8.2 or 8.4, does he or she stand any chance in securing an abroad internship? Like, is CGPA that much a factor in this?
Well, I didn't go for an abroad internship, so I shouldn't be speaking specifically on that. But my CGPA was 8.04 finally. And so if I'm here right now, I believe anybody can do this. I think CGPA in certain universities, certain institutes, they would look just at the CGPA and make a decision. So uh, that is, if that's the case, then of course, or if somebody has a slab, like okay, only people above this can apply, then it's important to go beyond that slab of requirement. But other than that, I think uh, your for mm, securing internships abroad, I think they would require you to send a detailed proposals, and uh, as long as you have been thinking about it for uh, like a way prior to the actual application, you talk to professors in the department in NIT Durgapur Chemical Engineering, talk to professors, get some exposure. Uh, they would tell you about. There has been people from the department who have been accepted in different internships. Uh, Maybe some of them had really good CGPA, but it's not the end of the world to not have a great CGPA. It's
See, I'd like to like add something to the question. Like, personally, like I've been hearing a lot, especially for a while. Like, you need to at least we need to secure at least like 8.5 or above in order to get like if I were to continue higher education, like a broad education, if I want to pursue that, then we have to have an 8.5 or above. So, is there some kind of that kind of a rule that does like I mean you passed out in 2018, right? Like so it's been a while now. Like take for instance we are going to pass out in 2024. So is there a rule going on now like for the ones who are just pursuing
well,
like just
uh,
started?
yes, it would depend on this, because in my year, I think the topper wasn't even 9. So in my year, everybody had.
Yeah, I guess the online thing kind of gave us a lot of CGPA and just, the expectations kind of shot up because of that.
But then, when you are applying to certain universities, some of them would require you to convert your 10-point CG into a 4-point scale,
Right.
or not. But then, uh, 10 divided by 2.5 is 4. So your CGPA divided by 2.5 is not what you will get out of 4, because that's not so simple. The conversion takes into a lot of different aspects, and you will find some of these universities would ask you to convert, but most of the universities wouldn't ask you to convert. So when our CGPAs get converted to the 4-point scale, sometimes it doesn't look as bad as it would look on the 10-point scale. That is one thing. And yeah, also it depends on uh, I think subjects, like if your CGPA, how is it distributed uh, in chemical engineering, important subjects, what you're getting. Also, I think you can get around having a lower CGPA by getting good research exposure if you can. So that
Right.
is something I would ask people to focus on. Get in touch with different professors and get some research exposure and try to publish. When I say publish, I mean try to publish a first author or a second author kind of paper.
No,
Not.
but as like someone being like as someone who's an undergraduate, like it gets most of the times it's not like it doesn't happen that way. Like we don't get to be the first or the second author because we're like a lot of like even MTechs are working probably on the same project, the PhDs are working. So of course our names will be like listed right at the end, or probably not at all. Like at times you would have to work in on that project for months.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, when you have some there has been people from NIT Durgapur who had multiple uh, publications, but many of when you say in your CV or in your SOP that you have multiple publications, it should mean something. If you have like multiple publications in very vastly different topics, uh, it kind of speaks like, okay, this sounds very fake. Why? How come somebody did so much work in multiple different fields with? So it's important to focus on something. Uh, it may not be that you wouldn't want to focus on that very thing in it's important to be able to advertise well what you have worked on, and to convince somebody when you are writing mails to prospective professors. It's important to read their work, their uh, recent work prior,
Right.
and come up with something like, uh, people would appreciate uh, if you tell me that I've read your work. That's fine, okay, great. But if you tell me something, some suggestion or some question, some very specific question that is pertaining to my
Right,
work.
which sets me apart from the rest, like bring something new to the table, basically.
Yes. So that is something you can focus on. That way, uh, your all the other aspects, once somebody is interested in you, uh, in your passion for this particular field, his or her work, then that person would be interested to take you in as a student, whether as an intern or as a full-time PhD student, uh, whether or not you have excellent CGs or excellent
Right.
first author papers or whatever. It's
Catching
important
the
to.
like catching the attention of a
Yes.
particular professor, yeah, that's what we gotta focus on first and foremost.
Yes, and to do that, it's important to read and analyze their latest work.
Right. And anyone else? Do you all have any other questions?
Also, please find
Didi,
out if the professor is accepting students at this
Hmm.
point, because some of these mm, websites are outdated. They haven't been
Right.
updated.
Right.
Didi, any recent breakthroughs in the field of vaccine and therapeutics means how the chemical engineers come into the picture?
Uh, the chemical engineers come in different parts of the picture, but I would talk about downstream processing, for example. In uh, downstream processing, which is like uh, when the purification starts after the product has been manufactured, that's where chemical engineers would play an important role. Uh, as a membrane scientist, I would focus on, for example, after a bioreactor, some there is this host of downstream processing, clarification, primary capture, uh, virus clearance, polishing, formulations. All of these are mostly either chromatographic or membrane based processes, and all of these processes is where chemical engineers come in, even at the bioreactor stage. And uh, I have included this global membrane technology in pharma, biopharma, and life sciences market share. Uh, it's because I worked before. Uh, it interests me to find out the commercial relevance of something. So, uh, if you have similar interests, you would want to. This looks good to me, as the market share of these products keep improving. And so when you are a chemical engineer, you can analyze these processes, these flows, whether it's diffusion control or convection control. uh, there is this membrane technology which could combine the diffusive and the convective flows, and uh, this is give whether you have high binding capacity for the flow rates. All of these things would be a chemical engineer's concern rather than a biologist. A biologist would be involved in asking questions of like how the molecule, how the body would react, or how the molecule is made in the body, and how it can be made synthetically, uh, learning stuff from nature. But then chemical engineers would make it actually feasible making by actually purifying the target products to its required levels of purity, and uh, make it a marketable product finally. So this is where in bioseparations, separations is what chemical engineers deal with. So anything in any industry, separations is like a big part of any industry, and the biopharmaceuticals industry is no different. So and in this case, the separation has to be like everything has to be so pure, so pure. So of course, it's chemical engineers work all the way.
Right. Right. I had another question. So how different is if someone wants to pursue like MS from abroad, or if someone wants to go directly for PhD, how different both of them are? And which one do you think is like the best way to go about it?
Well, MS is just a specialization. You are working on something and you feel that you are underqualified for certain aspects, so you go for a specialization that is your master's, uh, that makes you qualified for better jobs. And MS is something that you should go for if you are looking for a short specialization that could um, suddenly up your skills to some level that could make you eligible for certain jobs that you weren't eligible in previously. So but PhD is something entirely different. You need not think about doing a PhD if you are just looking to up your skills, and uh, that way masters is good enough. And I in my case, I didn't want to uh, go for masters because I uh, had already decided I wanted to do a PhD. So it, in that case, even professors would encourage, if you are already uh, into if you have decided that you want to pursue research on this field, why even go for an MS? Because uh, MS mostly is self-financed, uh, unless you are securing some scholarship from somewhere else, or your institute has some specific scholarship for that thing. um, for MS, I would suggest it's good to explore Europe as European universities, because uh, in the US it's like MS is not greatly funded, and sometimes it's like to me it felt like highly expensive, uh, rather than options in Germany or in Belgium, and even all the Swiss universities. And Singapore also has good universities for MS options. I would suggest go for first look up those universities rather than US universities.
Right. So MS is basically like if I were to add some new skill to my already like set of skills that I have, or specialize in some skill which would probably get me a better job. Only for that reason we're like we should be going for MS. Otherwise, if we were to like continue with research and all, directly going for PhD would do it.
Yes,
Because yeah, because we kind of got it from one of our professors that like MTech, like if you want to go for MTech, might as well complete with your PhD. Don't just settle for MTech. So I just had this question like, is it the same for like MS and PhD kind of thing?
uh, in India, it's kind of used interchangeably, MTech, because even in MTech, you need to do a project.
Hmm.
In different countries, it means different things. Uh, for example, I think in Belgium, um, they wouldn't consider. They would consider B Tech as something which is very similar to an ITI engineer in India. So, in the terminology is very
Right.
countrywide,
Yeah.
uh, but MS and MTech are pretty similar. In IITs, some of the IITs, it would vary, um, MS by research or something like that. But I mean, what he suggested is good if you are already convinced that you want to do a PhD. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
uh, if you are in doubt, or meanwhile you want to just get uh, better skills and focus on something, and you want some time to figure out whether you actually want to do a PhD or not. In all of these cases, you can do an MS or MTech,
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
go for a PhD only if you are entirely convinced that it's.
Yeah, we need like the dedication to go through it, actually make it through the entire process of PhD.
I mean, there has been many people. There has been many cases uh, at different universities, at our university as well, where people have given up after but mm, a few years of PhD, but they are always going out with an MS degree, and they always end up in some job. I'm not saying that it would lead you to nowhere, because it, things fall into place. So,
Yeah,
but
again, it depends, like on the situation, on what kind of circumstances we are in, on the person itself, probably. So,
but
and
many people also have done that. I mean, not a lot, but yeah.
Right. And like I can just say, like at the moment, if I'm talking about currently, like there's a lot of this kind of a wave of that's going around, like of learning softwares of like chemical engineering, be it MATLAB, Aspen, ANSYS, anything along those lines. So how much is that used? Like if I'm talking about abroad, like how much of that do you all use in chemical engineering, or is it that of much of a relevance there?
MATLAB is a good mm, tool that so depends on sometimes depends on what work you're focused in, and some of this, if you are in process control and something that could uh, make your use of Aspen and HYSYS, or I think Aspen, HYSYS, all of these things would be relevant in certain companies as well for certain jobs which are in process control and stuff like that. um, MATLAB and other things are useful in research when for chemical engineers, for modeling kind of applications when you are doing mathematical modeling. MATLAB is a very important tool to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And you would have mathematical modeling labs with MATLAB in it. I use MATLAB mostly to make prettier plots. Uh, I like when I plot on MATLAB, I can manipulate a lot of things.
Right. Um, so do you guys have any other questions? I guess that is all that we had from our side, all the questions and queries and everything. So shall we like wrap it up and call
Sure,
it a night probably? Yeah.
sure,
So thank you like once again. It was such a wonderful like session, and we got to know so many new stuff from you, like questions that we have been having since a while now. So thank you for being patient enough and answering all of that and explaining in such great detail. And it was really great having you here. And Chess would like to keep in touch with you in the future as well. And we hope to see you again with us in the future. And
sure.
as for
If you
viewers,
need anything like um, links or something for
right? We
operations,
definitely
whatever.
love to have that link that you're talking about. Like the one you mentioned shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be saying it online like in front of entire public. You could just send it to us though.
Sure,
And your PPT was again something which was very inspiring and informative. So if we could have a couple of those slides, because they were very like like career oriented, kind of like what you need to do in this stage and that stage and all that.
yeah. I think I attended one alumni talk before, and I uh, answered similar questions, so I have those slides.
Right. Right. And so, as for viewers, it's a humble request to kindly like and share this video. And of course, let us know in the comments down below whether you have any other questions. Team Chess would get back to you as soon as possible on those. So, that is all. Please do check out our other social media platforms as well. And so, thank you once again for giving us your time, and Chess signing off.
All the best to all
Thank you,
guys.
Dee.
Thank you,
Thank
Dee.
you.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you, Dee.
Bye.